it's fine. You can use scarcity if the scarcity is genuine. You can use, we certainly buy based on emotions. So certainly my writing calls up those, those emotions and those kinds of things, but we don't use it in a malicious way designed to make people do something that they don't want to do.
Hi guys, welcome back to the EcomXFactor podcast. Today's guest is Abbi Perets. Abbi is a copywriter with 20 years of experience working with some of the biggest brands in the world. She's passionate about writing email sequences and sale pages that help people get their courses, services, and products in front of the people who need them the most. Abbi shared a lot of value bombs during this talk. She talked about how to write better copy by truly understanding your customers, what has changed in the world of copywriting in the last 20 years, tips and tricks to become more effective and productive with your copywriting, and much more. Please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation about copywriting, but not only copywriting, with Abbi Perets.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hi Abbi, how are you?
Great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for hopping on the call.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dig in.
Cool. I'm also excited because also before we started recording, it was already fun and valuable. So I'm definitely looking forward.
Sounds good.
Cool. So can you share a bit about your background? You're obviously a copywriter, and we're going to dig into very practical best practices and tips that you're going to share, hopefully. I'm sure you're going to share, but can you share a bit of your background?
Absolutely. So I started writing, my oldest daughter is 21 and I had my first job even before she was born. So I've been writing for probably close to 25 years. And when my first baby was born, I didn't want to work in an office anymore. So I became a freelance writer. Didn't really know what that meant and what that would look like, or, who would hire me or how I would get paid. But I kind of figured out things along the way. And remember, we're talking, 21 years ago. So we didn't have Google. We had Alta Vista. It was a great little search engine. And fortunately, I had the public library at my disposal. So I would literally just walk in there. I made great friends with my reference librarian. I would bring home stacks of books every week and just read through them and figure out the things that I needed to know. So I read a ton on writing and the art of writing and a lot of the old school copywriting books, and started building up my own client base. And along the way, I had another bunch of children. I have 5 all told. So being a freelancer was really the only thing I could do because there was no way I could have managed all of those children and a regular 9-to-5 job in an office. And I've, just been writing and delving into what good writing is for the past 2 decades.
Wow, I have so many questions in my mind. So let's start. First of all, which books? What are the classical books that you've read back then?
Gosh, you're asking a hard question. No, that's a tough one. Ogilvy on Advertising is one of the classics. Yeah. I literally just went through everything on the shelf. There was nothing that I didn't at least open and skim. And the ones that spoke to me, I went back and reread. At the time, I was specifically looking for information on starting and building a freelance writing business. And so I focused a lot on Peter Bowerman's The Well-Fed Writer, on everything that Bob Bly wrote, Write More, Sell More, the Copywriter's Handbook, all of that stuff. And I probably still have some of it on my shelves today. And one of the things that I noticed was all of this stuff was written by men, and that a lot of it didn't sit well with me. A lot of the classic copywriting tactics that were being used didn't feel great to me. And that only got worse as we got into the the internet marketing world. And over the years, you'd hit those web pages where it's like a letter. Dear friend, have you ever wanted to make $4 million in an hour? And I was like, I don't like this. This feels gross. So I started coming up with my own alternatives to that. And I mean, who am I? Right? I'm just some girl who doesn't even have a degree in anything. But I knew what spoke to me, and I knew what made me keep reading, and I knew what made me click away. So that's where I started really digging in.
Awesome. I love the Ogilvy book. The other ones I didn't read, but I wrote it down, so I'm going to skim through them as well. But Ogilvy is amazing. So what are you doing different than what I am perceiving based on these masculine copywriters?
Sure, absolutely. So I have two core principles in my business, and this comes through in everything that I teach and coach on and what I write for clients and all of that. So the first one is don't lie. And I mean, don't lie ever. Don't say that something is on sale for 2 days if it's always on sale. You know how when you walk down the streets in New York City and going out of business. That place has been going out of business for 42 years. It's not going out of business. This is your sales tactic, and it's gross, and people recognize it, and it's not fun. Don't say that, you've extended the deadline as a one-time thing. If this is just if this is the price all the time, people see through it, and it doesn't feel good. Don't say a webinar is live if it's recorded. Don't lie to people. And then the second rule is treat people the way you would want to be treated. So if you wouldn't want to read a sales page that had that copy on it, don't write it on your sales page. If you wouldn't want to get that email in your inbox, don't send it. A good rule of thumb for me is, would I want my mom to know I wrote this? And if the answer is, oh no, that would be really awkward, I probably shouldn't write it, not for myself and not for a client. So I'm very, very picky about who I work with. And I won't work with people if I think they're selling snake oil, because I don't want any part of it. And I don't buy into those tactics in my own marketing and my own coaching. I think that you can use, it's fine. You can use scarcity if the scarcity is genuine. You can use, we certainly buy based on emotion. So certainly my writing calls up those, those emotions and those kinds of things, but we don't use it in a malicious way designed to make people do something that they don't want to do.
There's a fine line, because you do want your copy to have a sting and to create emotion and persuade. So I love the fact that you envision your mother reading, and then it's a good rule of thumb, because there is a fine line, and sometimes we pass it. It might mean that the results are going to be better for the specific instance, but the customer lifetime value is not going to be as good, and morally it isn't good, and you'd rather sleep at night. So
that I'm a huge fan of sleep. I love my sleep. I'm 45. So sleep is critical to me, and I need to be able to sleep well. So I need to know that I ended the day, that I could, that I can talk to my kids about what I did, that I can talk to my mom about what I did. And it really is. It's a great rule of thumb, because you'll know immediately, wow, if I would be embarrassed to show this to my parents, then I probably shouldn't do it. And it's never about, if you think of it, where copy is designed to get exactly the right people and hook them up with the thing that they really need that truly will help them in some way, copy is never about convincing them. It's about helping them make the best decision for themselves. And when you approach it from that standpoint, rather than and when you approach it from the standpoint of I'm calling out the exact right people for this, rather than I would like everybody in the world to buy my thing. Whenever I talk to a potential client and I ask them who are you marketing to, anyone who gives me an answer people with a pulse, I'm great, we're not going to work together. You got to be a little bit more specific than that. That's not going to work. So, yeah.
Right. Are the Israelis the people that say to people who suppose, or is it a global answer?
No, it's not just Israelis. No, and actually I've had some very American clients who say things to me like, yeah, we market to everyone. Everyone is our potential customer. I'm like, no, they're not. You've got a lot of work to do on that business before you're ready for me. And I think it's a sign of an experienced business owner. And I definitely, I was just reading a post on Facebook the other day by a coach who I follow and admire. And she was saying, like, I remember when I first started my business, like there's that, you're in debt and you need money and there are things that you do and you kind of let yourself get away with them. And then 6 months later, you look back and you're like, ooh, I don't like that I did that. I'm never going to do that again. And I think that's a learning process and that's totally cool. And as soon as you recognize, I don't want to be that person. I want to be someone with integrity who isn't obsessed with every dollar coming in. I want the right people buying my stuff. I want the right people connecting with my company. It's a better life. I don't know, like, it's how I live and it's how I go through the days. I want to know that I'm actually, at its core, I think building a business is about helping people. And that's where I approach things from. And if it's genuinely about helping people, you can't lie to them and you can't mislead them and you can't trick them into buying your thing.
I agree. And also a concept that I've been thinking about lately is the fact that you can't really convince people if they don't come with a frame of mind of wanting to buy or thinking. So it's hard to convince. You need to more like, I envision this as like escorting them to do the to take the right choice. But you can't really take someone who isn't interested and convince him unless you're very, very aggressive. And
unless you're very aggressive and you're willing to, cross a lot of lines. And I love the way you describe that. I mean, I really think it is. It's guiding somebody through that process. It's really helping them make a decision that's right for them. Business is not about, not everybody in the world has to buy Coca-Cola, right? Like some people are going to buy Pepsi and that's okay, even though Pepsi's gross. And sorry, Pepsi. And you don't need all the customers in the world. You need customers who love you and are passionate about your products and services and who tell everybody how awesome your company is. You need those people, and you don't need all of the customers in the world. You can still have an amazing, incredible business that makes a lot of money and helps a lot of people. And when I say helping people, you don't have to be out there curing cancer. Okay, one of my kids ordered this stuffed animal off, like AliExpress or something, right? And it's this little stuffed octopus. And if you flip it one way, it has a smiley face. And if you flip it the other way, it has a frowny face. And she bought them for her office so that people could put them on their desks and let you know what kind of mood they're in. And I loved them because I have 2 kids who have trouble talking about their feelings. So I said, hey, could you please order 2 more of these for us to have at home? So it's this little stuffed animal, but guess what? It does improve our lives, all kinds of products and services can help people in different ways. So
yeah, and I'd like to hear more about your tactics and your tips and more rule of thumbs, because I love rule of thumbs. But before we go into this, can you share a bit about, since you've been in the game for so long, what have changed? Has anything changed, or people are people and it's all the same?
Well, I think a lot has changed. I think that a lot has changed in that consumers are much savvier now than they used to be. We're much more skeptical. We're looking for the catch much more than we used to. And I think that's ultimately a good thing because it forces marketers to be more honest and to stop relying on tactics and, the latest strategies. So yeah, for me, what I've seen with my clients is I've seen some clients who have made multi-7 figures with very old school style sales letters and webinars. And then they're suddenly surprised when sales dry up. I'm like, right, because those strategies maybe they worked at one point when people didn't realize that your webinar wasn't live, or when people didn't realize that timer was always there. And now people are smarter and they do know. So you have to stop selling crap and improve your product and service significantly and improve your relationship. I think there's much more of an understanding now that the buyer's journey is not always linear, that people come into the sales cycle at different points based on what they need at that moment. I certainly did not have a relationship with the company that we bought these octopus stuffed toys from, right? It was something, I saw it and I wanted it. The end, just give me a buy now button. I would not have wanted to sit through a webinar in order to purchase that. So we come into the buyer's journey at different stages. And the main thing is that people are smarter and we have to be grateful for that. And we have to focus on creating relationships with people. I think that business today is much more about relationships than it ever was.
And how does the fact that it's more business based on relationship manifest in your copywriting?
Right. Yeah. I think that all writing is about building relationships with people. So again, with copy, I'm never trying to appeal to everyone. So you want a tip and a tactic? The first thing that I teach people is you are never writing to an audience. You are writing to a specific person. And when I say a specific person, I do not mean like the thing I hate more than anything else, not more than anything, but like the hate that I hate a lot is ideal client avatars. Hate them, tear them up. Instead of ideal client avatars, focus on an actual human person you've spoken to and had conversations with. And then when you're doing your writing, you write to that person specifically. So not the idea of a woman in her 40s who goes to Starbucks and orders a caramel macchiato, but like actually your friend Deb who goes to Starbucks and orders a caramel macchiato and also does other things like fights with her husband in the morning. And like she told you about the time she was at this bar and this guy put his hand on her thigh and like, oh my God, like actual experiences, let that guide you when you're writing copy. Relationships are built, between people. So instead of focusing on the idea or the concept of people, focus on actual people. My greatest tip, like truly, the most important thing you can do for your copy is focus on real people who you've had real conversations with. And that's the other piece of it. Like, have conversations with people who buy your stuff. Talk to them. Get to know them as people. If you don't actually like the people you serve, that's a real problem. I've seen business owners who have, I would say, disdain for their customers, and that's always upsetting and sad to me. Because why are you doing this? Like, come on, there's so many other things you could do with your life. You have to really care about the people you serve. You have to, like, if you were going to spend 30 days on an island with them, what would you do? Like, would that fill you with fear and make you want to run and hide? That's a bad sign. Like, you should be really eager to hang out with these people, and you should have some idea of what would you talk about? What would you eat? What games would you play? What would be on the TV? What music would you be listening to? And on the flip side, what would you definitely not watch with those people? What would you definitely not do? Like, I know if I had to spend 30 days with, anyone, I'm not going hiking because I don't want to. I'm not going to do yoga. I'm not going to like these are not the people who I want to hang out with. Like, sure, I can have perfectly nice friendships with people who do yoga, but I do not want to spend 30 days at a yoga retreat. Not my thing, right? I want to spend it in like a 5-star hotel having room service brought to my bed every morning. Like, I want to hang out with those people. I want to hang out in a room with people who don't care that I'm sitting and reading a book and ignoring them for 4 hours because I want to be left alone. There are very specific shows that I want to watch on TV with people and things that I don't want to do. And I know that, and I know who I'm calling in when I'm serving people, and I know who I'm pushing away.
Yeah. So basically the qualification of the customer is the most important thing on your end.
Yeah, it's really knowing that person deeply and really caring about their happiness, their success, their whatever it is that your product or service does to help them, knowing that deeply. And then knowing that they're a whole person and it's not just about the thing that you sell. Like, they're not just their relationship with your business.
So instinctively, I think so. If I'm thinking about a specific person when I'm writing the copy, will this necessarily mean that the copy is going to have a longer form, or not necessarily?
No, it doesn't have to. You can do plenty with short form if it's driving to something specific, and if you know your people really well, you'll know. What's the one reference you can make in short form copy that they're immediately going to connect with? Should it be a Tiger King reference or should it be a 60 Minutes reference? I don't know. And so, but you'll know like exactly the phrases that will speak to them and will get them to go where you want to go next, to take the next step.
And so we're assuming we are going to create this copy, assuming that we know exactly what are the pains and how do they behave. So if we're scratching our own itch and we're serving people that are like us, so it's obvious. But how are you going to do the research if the people that you're serving are not exactly like you, love the 5-star hotel and...
Right. So you've got to talk to them. That's why you have to have conversations with people. So I teach a 5-step framework and I call it the RITE framework, WRITE. So who is this person, right? So identify, and again, not an ideal person, but an actual person. And then your research is literally from interacting with the person. So you've got to be talking to them. And, I teach writers, right? And they're like, well, I'm an introvert. I don't like people. That's why I'm a writer. I'm like, great. You want to have a business, you got to talk to people. You don't have to like them all the time, but you have to talk to them. The best thing that you can do is interact with people, have conversations with them. Thank God for the internet and Zoom because we can have conversations with anyone from all over the world, But if you're starting out in your business, it's so like one of the best investments you can make is sit down with people on Zoom if you have to, but in a room if possible. And literally talk to them and ask them questions and listen to everything they say. Listen for a couple of things. One, listen to what they say. Listen to how they say it, because that language you can then literally put on a sales page or in emails and they're like, oh my God, it's like you read my diary. And it's like, yeah, well, basically I did. So,
how would the conversation look like? Like which questions do you find are giving you like a good bang for your buck? Obviously, we don't want, it's a conversation and it has to be natural. But on the other hand, I'm cold calling someone who is like my target audience. And then how would the conversation look like? What questions would you like to ask?
Yeah, well, so you want to know, basically you want them to talk to you about what their life is like, at this moment. What are the struggles? What are the pain points? So, with regard to what you're selling. So for example, when I'm talking to people who want to get started in freelance writing, okay, well, what's the biggest hurdle right now? What's keeping you from starting a business as a freelance writer? Tell me about where you are right now. Tell me about what you've tried so far. So let's say somebody who's trying to lose weight, for example. What have you done so far to try to lose weight? How has that worked? What does that feel like? So when you've tried this thing, and tell me about how it worked or didn't work, and how did that make you feel? And really go in on the details. Like, if somebody has tried to solve their problem before and has failed, you need to know all the things about that failure. Literally, how that felt, how it smelled, what I tasted, what I said to my husband in the morning, what I felt when I woke up, what I talked about with my friends, what I was Googling when I was looking for answers, all of those things. And then if they've used your solution, right? Okay, well, what did it feel like when you found this? What was the first thought that popped into your head when you landed on this web page or when you saw this ad or whatever? What was the first thing you thought? And it's even better if the first thing they thought was, there's no way this will work. And then what happened? What convinced them to try? What pushed them over the edge and had them, click that buy now button? And then what happened? And it's continuing to push. I tell my students all the time that being a writer means not being afraid to ask questions and to keep pushing. And when I set this up with my own clients, when I'm pushing them to tell me these things so that I can write copy for them, I tell them, this is going to annoy the crap out of you. You're going to hate this, but I'm doing it not to be mean. I'm doing it because I want to get you the best possible copy. So when you're doing this with your own customers, you don't want to annoy them, but you tell them, I want to help more people like you. Like the same way that you feel now, I want to help other people feel like that. And most of your customers, if they love your product or service, they're going to be very happy to do this. So it's just not being afraid to just keep asking and keep digging. Okay. And then, once you started, it wasn't like you started and it was magic and we waved a wand and everything was perfect, right? Like you had some setbacks along the way. So let's talk about those. What happened the first time you felt like, oh, this isn't helping, this isn't working, whatever. And then what? And then what? And then what? And it's just, just be like a toddler. Like, when they, why? But why, mommy? But why? Like, don't be afraid to do that. I have a son who is autistic, and we always say that he should be the person who negotiates peace in the Middle East, because he just repeats what he wants until you agree. He's like, so we're going to do this now the way I said, right? We're going to do it my way, right? We're going to do my thing now, right? Now we're going to do my thing, right? Now we're going to do my thing. Like literally, he just keeps saying it. So be like that. So,
yeah, are you familiar with the 5 whys framework that you just?
Yes.
So it's kind of similar. You just ask 5 whys until you get to the root of the
yes. I actually have a worksheet that I call the why worksheet, and why does that matter, and why does that matter, and why does that matter, and it really is true. Like as long as you're okay with continuing to ask those questions, you're going to get to the real answer, and it's cool when you do, because that really is powerful, and it will help you help more people.
I agree, and I also love the fact that you mentioned that you do a disclaimer before you start. So people are expecting something worse, probably, but they also are in a frame of mind to help, and you also gave them the reason, the motive behind why you're asking these questions, which is important. You can't go ahead and just ask people 5 whys and annoy them before, unless you do the disclaimer before.
That's a really good point. Setting expectations is critical in your copy. Certainly, yes, when you're doing all this background work, you want to set expectations and you're having conversations with people. But then, let's say you're sending an email sequence. Tell people at the outset, hey, I'm going to be in your inbox for the next 5, 6, 7, whatever days. And here's what's going to happen in these emails. Each one will take you 2 minutes to read, and it will have one tip, and it will this, whatever. Let people know what to expect. I don't know about you, but I'm not a surprise person. I'm not really a fan of surprise parties. I don't like, even if I'm going on a day tour, for example, I don't like not knowing what's going to happen. I like when the guide starts off by saying, okay, we're going to spend the next hour and a half doing this. Then we're going to have a bathroom break. Good. I need to know that. Then we're going to eat. Then we're going to go here. I like to know what's going to happen. And I think that most of us do. They say that the reason children ask, what's for dinner, which is one of the most annoying questions you can get as a parent, is because they want to make sure that there's going to be dinner. It's because toddlers and children in general don't have a lot of control over their lives. We forget to tell our kids things a lot. And we do this with our customers too. We know things. I know that this product is available for this amount of time, and then it's going to be on sale, and then this is going to happen. But we don't remember to tell people that. So give them the information that they need to make good decisions, and they will be so happy.
Nice. You mentioned the right framework, so I think I gathered W and the R. What are the rest of the letters?
Sure. Okay, so W is who are you writing to? R is researching, and I is interact. T then is trust. Trust your ability to ask the right questions. Trust the framework to help you do the right things. And E stands for educating yourself consistently. And that means a couple of things. One, it means listening to podcasts like this one, hanging out with people who can teach you the next step. And it also means continuing to talk to your people and educating yourself on their needs, particularly if you are working with people, let's say in a service-based business, if you're working with them when they start at one point, they're going to grow. And at some point, your audience might need something else from you. If you're working in products, it's also true. Your product might solve one problem for your clients, but then they might have a new and better problem that you can solve for them with another product later on. So having those repeated conversations with your people will keep you educated on their ongoing needs and what they need from you.
Nice. And let's say I'm an e-commerce store owner and my brand is, let's say, faceless. So how would this look like in opposing to when you're writing copy for yourself or for someone someone like a person. So it's kind of different because the brand is creating a different relationship than a one-man show.
Number one, I would challenge the assumption that your brand has to be faceless. Why not give your brand a face? Why not give your brand a face and a personality? I use a service called Acuity Scheduling, and it's just this basic calendar scheduling software, right? It's a brand. It's a company. It's not like a person. It's Acuity Scheduling. They send some of the best emails I've ever read. They've created a brand personality. Just because you're a company doesn't mean that your emails have to sound like they were written by a machine and, dear sir or madam. We make this mistake when we sit down to write for work. We think we have to be super formal, and we don't. Who are the people you're writing? Remember that on the other end of this the computer screen, there's a person opening up that email. And even if the person is at work, the person is still a person. And the person still watches Game of Thrones or whatever is the new thing. I don't know. I'm not cool. So the person has likes and dislikes and is dealing with a pandemic and is whatever, all of these things. So you can still create a face and a personality for your brand, even if it's a brand and not a person. You can, if you're the company, cool. Awesome. I bet people would like to know some things about you. It doesn't have to be all about you, and they don't want to know every detail of your life, and you don't need to share every detail of your life. But why'd you create this product? Why'd you decide to sell this thing? Why'd you open this shop? What was the need that you saw that you wanted to fix? Highlight some of your customers and how they've been helped by these things. There's still a lot of ways that you can bring personality and storytelling and all of those wonderful things into your writing. And it doesn't have to be boring or cold or formal or distant.
Would you suggest creating an avatar, like McDonald's created Ronald? So some brands create as if there is a person, like an avatar, maybe an animal or something, or would you just speak as if you're the brand, creates a voice of the brand?
I think I'd probably go with the voice of the brand. Yeah. I think I have such a thing against avatars, right?
I picked it up.
Yeah, did you? I'm not subtle. So I think that I would say what is the brand? What is the brand voice? What is the brand personality? And if you have something that that can represent your brand, that's cool to do. I've seen chatbots are really big right now, right? And it's much more fun if you give your chatbot a little bit of personality and give it a fun name. So we were talking in my own business about, if we had a chatbot here, what would we name it? So my first instinct, because as the writer, I'm highly creative. I was like, automated Abbi. And they were like, no, Abbi, it needs to be Linda. Why Linda? Let me tell you why, Linda. Because several months ago, I got an email or a charge from Amazon on my Amazon account. And I was like, what is this? So I reached out to Amazon. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, somebody, charged Amazon Prime on your account. And I'm like, but I have a Prime account and I pay for it annually. And now I'm suddenly getting monthly charges. And they're like, yeah, somebody else got an Amazon Prime account on your credit card. I'm like, well, that's clearly a problem. So I had this whole conversation with Amazon customer service. It was hysterical. They're like, can you please tell me the email address of this person or the name of this person? Because this is fraud. And they were like, the customer service rep said to me, I can't tell you the name, but I'll give you the first letter. And the first letter was L. And I have two daughters whose names start with L. So I'm like, is it this? Is it that? She's like, no. And so then I'm guessing random names. And she's like, it's Linda. And I'm like, okay, first of all, you suck at guessing games. Second of all, what the heck? Who's Linda? And I posted this whole thing on Instagram and people thought it was hysterical. So when my team was like, your chatbot is obviously Linda because that's got so much personality in your brand, it's Linda. So if you've got something even just little things like being on Instagram and, posting stories about these little things that happen can give your brand that personality. Because I get people still, this was 6 months ago, and every so often I get people, questioning on Instagram, how's Linda? My father uses it. My father's like, oh, did you send Linda something for, it takes on a life of its own. So let it happen.
Nice. My proposition is Abbi's avatar, because you love avatar so much. But,
you're just hitting all the buttons. There you go.
Let's shift the conversation for a second. Not for a second, but I wanted to talk about productivity, because you have 5 kids and you created this amazing business, and a lot of people want to create copy fast and be effective. So how would you approach this?
Yeah. So everything that I do, I've had to learn how to do in small chunks of time, because I have 5 kids. 2 of them have special needs. So especially when they were smaller, there was a lot of time spent in waiting rooms while my kids were in various therapies and whatever. So I had to learn to do things in short chunks of time. So one of the things that I learned to do very early on is I'm really careful with my to-do list. When I sit down and I plan out the things that I'm going to do, I think about each item on my to-do list. I break it down into 1, 2, or 3 blocks of 25 minutes each. And so I assign each item a 1, 2, or 3 based on how many blocks it's going to take. And if something on my list is going to take more than 3 25-minute blocks, it's not an item that should be on my to-do list. It's still more of like a project, and I need to break it down a little bit more. So this does a couple of things. One, it forces me to be like really clear about, if I see that I've put like 17 3s on my to-do list, I'm not going to get them all done today. And going into the day knowing that helps me plan more effectively. And also it makes certain that I'm not putting projects on my to-do list, because that's just horrible. Like if I sit down and I see like write website copy, I'm like, great, I'm going to watch Netflix instead, because I don't want to write. Like that's too much. But if I see, it's write whatever, homepage blurb 1, okay, great. I can plan 25 minutes. Yeah. So I've gotten really good at using these 25-minute blocks of time. And that's really, it's how I teach. It's how because we're all busy, whether, even if you're not a mom, and even if you don't have kids, you might have a day job and you're trying to build this business on the side. You've got responsibilities outside, you've got church and synagogue, and you've got neighbors and the school runs and a spouse and like some semblance of a social life. Maybe you're trying to date. Like we've all got stuff going on. 25-minute blocks are manageable. So I'm all about breaking things down into those small blocks of time.
Nice. And why did you choose 25? Did you play with longer and shorter? And
for me, that was the true answer. Because most kids shows run about 22 minutes, and my kids would sit another 3 minutes before they would come running into my office for me to put on something else. So it really came from like reality. Like I knew that I could probably focus for 25 minutes without getting interrupted. And even now that my kids are older and I spend hours here in this space, and I don't have to be interrupted, you can't focus for hours at a time. It's really difficult. And certainly, we get into flow and whatever, but you don't do that on a daily basis all the time. So I know that I can focus on something for 25 minutes, and then I want a break. I want coffee. I want to walk around. I want to talk to somebody, whatever. So that's how I came at that. It's a very scientific study.
Necessity is the mother of all inventions.
Correct.
So
Correct.
This is great. And what about, I don't want to say the word tactical anymore, but do you use any template or swipe files in order to be very productive with the copy? Or
okay, so that's a really great question.
Creative?
Okay, part of the problem with swipe files and templates is that they were generally created for someone else's audience and not for your own, or in someone else's voice and not in your own. So if you've bought things like that before, it can feel like, I kind of threw my money away on this, because you can't just plug and play. It doesn't work like that. So instead, what I focus on, I have some templates that I've created, but I call them anti-template templates or non-template templates, because it's more about, here's what goes here. Here's the story you want to be telling here. Here's what you want to focus on in this part. And it's more about strategies for, okay, how do you, what questions should you be prompting yourself with to get the answers to put in this copy? It's swipe files are there's 2 different kinds of swipe files. There's swipe files that copywriters store where I save constantly. I save sales pages, I save emails, I read the stuff that works for me and the stuff that doesn't, and I make notes on it. And I pull out wow, this sucks. Or like, this just made me cringe, or this is awesome. I love this line here. I actually have like on my computer right now, there's this great line on a sales page. Hang on. I'll even read it to you.
Cool.
It's those $197 strategy sessions won't pay the bills. It's on a sales page for a program for coaches. And I was like, God, that is a fantastic line. I mean, it speaks to exactly what a new coach is doing. Like, love it. So like, I'm constantly like circling things, making notes on the reactions that I have to them. Those kinds of swipe files, totally in favor of. But when you buy like, oh, this is a, 320 ready to go social prompts. Really? So now you're going to sound like everybody else out there. This is not going to work. Like, I'm just you are not a cookie cutter. You are not a cookie cutter.
I agree, but I like this template just to give me inspiration, as you said, like prompts for creating but I'm not going to fill out like just fill out the blank and upload it to my sales page. Doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion. How do you accumulate all the swipe files of the first kind that you like? Do you have like a drive folder, a folder in the drive, or?
Oh, how do I store them? Okay, well, again, I'm a highly organized and scientific person. I'm not. I use I have a beautiful Chrome extension called, what is it called? Like Go Full Page or something, right? Go Full Page. And it will screenshot a whole page. Yeah. And then I save them as PDFs. And I do try to label things I kind of like use a Gmail approach to filing. So Gmail, the whole point of Gmail is you don't have to file things because you can just archive it and call it up in searches later. Yeah. And I try to use a similar system on my computer. I try to title things so that I can find them later. And then I instead of having 17 different folders, because I'm not going to like go filing each, like one folder, archive. And then I can call up the things that I need later.
Yeah, this is something I noticed like 1 or 2 years ago, that searchability is so important. So I want everything to be searchable. So what we do is we normally put it in Asana or in ClickUp, like a project management. And then whenever you search, anything that you search, you're going to find it easily. Because if it's just in your computer and you don't have access and you can't bring it out,
and it's useless.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so my team uses Trello, and I like having things easily accessible in cards, but searchability is such a key tool, and being able to search effectively. That's why I think, naming files, things that you're going to, not like some obscure, like call things what they are.
Yeah. And I also have, like you, I have a lot of full page screenshots that I never looked. I don't know if you look at them, but I never looked at them. But I just like accumulating them.
There's no use to having things that you're not going to look at. So typically what I do is when I take the screenshot, I take a few minutes right then to highlight the things that matter most to me. Why did I save this? I don't save things to look at later because later doesn't come. So if it's something that I know that I need to deal with and I don't have time right now, I will in that moment make a card and put it on my list on Trello. And I have a business manager and she keeps me honest. I'm like, Denise, like literally yesterday at the end of the day, I was like, I have stuff that I'm working on. Is there other stuff that I forgot that I'm supposed to be working on? Like, I feel like my week is too light, and she keeps me honest and she tells me, yeah, you need to be working on X, Y, Z. So,
nice. Yeah. I kind of have an approach that if it's that good, so it will stick in my mind. But I'm not sure it's correct.
Oh, yeah. Look, maybe it's different for men. I'm 45, and when I had my fourth baby, I always say the brain fell out along with him. Like, I lost my short-term memory. I don't rely on my memory for anything these days. My husband was an officer in the Air Force, and he told me that one of the first things they teach you in officer training is writing things down is the opposite of forgetting them. Nice. And I have used that since I was a soldier. It's everything that I needed to remember to do, I got in the habit of writing down, and much more so now. And I tell my children too, if you tell me something and you don't see me write it down, you can assume it's not going to happen.
Yeah. No, I want to clarify. I'm not advocating not writing tasks because this is like the most important thing that I do. But regarding the swipes, so normally if it's really, really good, so I have like a master file, which I call it the master file. It's something that I look at every morning, which it has all the results. It has all my affiliate links. It has the to-do, everything. And it also have like a swipe that, so I paste everything there, like the most important stuff. But I have also a lot of screenshots that I never looked at. So maybe something in the process needs to be.
We all save a lot of screenshots, like in our Dropbox folder and whatever, like where they automatically go. I think that setting up just even a quick process on, at the end of the week when you're wrapping up, take 20 minutes and flip through them really quickly, delete the ones you don't want, and then at least you have fewer that you're not looking at, but you're seeing them on a somewhat regular basis, so you're deciding, I want to do something with this, or I just want to have this here so that I can refer to it every so often.
Nice. A bit non-related, but you're teaching a lot of writers and copywriters, so what is like a common misconception? Let's say our listeners are thinking something, let's assume that they're thinking like all of the people that came to you to your courses. So what is like a common misconception about copywriting?
Common misconception about copywriting, it's just writing something, so anybody can do it. I think that, and I see that from two sides. My students sometimes think, my students are people who are drawn to writing, who care very much about language and words and the effect that words have on us. And it's often easy for them to come up with great headlines or great content and great copy. And they think because it's easy, it must not be valuable to other people. And then on the flip side, we certainly come across clients who are like, it's just words. It's just like, why should that cost me money? Good copywriting makes a massive difference in business. And just because it's easy for some people doesn't mean that it's easy for everyone, and doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. One of my very first email sequence clients had written her own email sequence for an evergreen program, a program that's always available, right? So people would watch her free training and then go through an email sequence and choose to buy or not buy her program. So she had written her own emails and she was making a sale every week to 10 days of like a $500 program. She hired me. I wrote her sequence. She put the sequence in place. Within a week, she had 3 sales come in. Nice. So she, literally, she emailed. She was like, "Oh my God, I love you. Like, how do I tell everybody in the whole world about you? And what else can you do for me?" It makes a massive difference. We've gone on with that sequence and with multiple other sequences to make, multi-7 figures for people. Mm-hmm. It makes a huge difference when you have good copy in your business. Good copy is never going to sell crap. It might make some initial sales, but word gets out and whatever, people figure out that you have crap. But you can have the greatest program or service or whatever thing in the world, and if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to buy it. And great copy can be the thing that brings it to life. So I would say that a common misconception is anyone can do it. It's just words, when really it's exceptionally valuable and it has the power to really drive sales in your business.
I agree. Great. Okay, Abbi, thank you so much. Where can people get more about you and hear about your services? This is like it's a great ending note to finish off because
Sure. So I am at successfulfreelancemom.com and I'm on Instagram as at Abbi Perets, and I would love to connect with you there.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Have a nice day. And
thanks.
Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Bye-bye.